Hello YouTube. Uh, have not made a video review in a long time. Sorry, I've been busy with some stuff with college, just recently graduated, so haven't really had time to just sit down and just talk about a movie. But I figured since this one's getting so much flack, I don't think I can do this film justice if I did a written review. I mean, usually I write my thoughts up, on a movie afterwards, but I feel like I have a lot to say about Fantastic Four, so I don't think I'd be doing it justice if I didn't actually put my thoughts on camera. So, anyways, Fantastic Four. How many times has this been? Four. Yeah, this is the fourth attempt at making a Fantastic Four movie, and yeah, I'm counting the Roger Corman movie. So that plus the Tim Story movies, and now this is ironically the fourth attempt at making a Fantastic Four movie. And I, it really brings to mind like it. I feel like a lot of people are asking this nowadays, and with this being the fourth attempt, I feel like a lot of people are wondering is it possible to actually make a good Fantastic Four movie? Is this concept just not possible to put on film? And some may argue that well it's been four movies, so it can't possibly we can't possibly make a good one. So in my own personal view, I don't think that's true. Yes, Fantastic Four is kind of strange. The source material is kind of strange. Like it's it's a story about four superheroes who go on these exploration missions to like these strange locations like the Negative Zone or further into space and all that. But it's not something that is unfilmable. All right, like there is a good Fantastic Four story here somehow. It's just lots of problems going towards like editing, um, studio mismanaging this stuff, directors giving like the weirdest interpretations of these characters. And let me let me backtrack. There is a good Fantastic Four story here somewhere. I mean, when you really think about it, the Fantastic Four movie, the legendarily good Fantastic Four movie that we're just trying to get, it's there somewhere, all right? Like the story writes itself. I mean, I could do it. I could do it right now. Just the movie starts with the hypothetical movie. Just start with Ben and Reed, show that they're friends, then cut to scene, show Sue and Johnny, show that they're close brother and sister, have the four of them meet, then they meet Doctor Doom, and at first, they're friends, they're hanging out, establish their bond, then show them on the mission that goes horribly wrong, show them get their powers, quickly go over the fact that they can't reverse the effects and all that stuff. Then show a scene where they have to save someone. They realize they can use their powers for good. Doctor Doom thinks he could use his powers for bad, and then have them fight. Uh, well, I mean, okay. Obviously, show first that Doctor Doom is the ruler of Latveria, and show that his like need for world domination, whatever, it comes from the fact that he rules this country. But what I'm trying, sorry, I'm going too much in this, but what I'm trying to get is this a Fantastic Four movie writes itself. All right, these characters, this universe, it there, this is not unfilmable. All right. So I'm not blaming the source material for this movie or the past movies. There's What I'm blaming this Fantastic Four, and let's count the other two Fantastic Fours. What I'm blaming for their horribleness is a lot of outside factors. I'm not gonna go too deep into the Tim Story movies, but I'm gonna use them for reference because a lot of problems in the Tim Story movies I saw a lot in this one, and which I didn't expect because you'd think that it's been 10, well, counting the sequel, It's been 8 years. Count. Like it's been 8 years. You'd think that we'd have learned from like the past, but apparently not. Anyways, okay, let's start with somewhere simple. What worked in this movie? Now, I know a lot of reviews are calling this like the worst thing of all time. Oh my God, it's the worst movie of the year, the worst thing in existence, the worst movie, superhero movie of the decade. Like, give the rights back to Marvel Studios, whatever. And that last statement I do agree with. Give the rights back to Marvel Studios. I do want to see the Thing fight the Hulk and Doctor Doom actually being in a good movie. Burn. But anyways, what uh what was good in this movie were very minuscule things. Like I like the fact that this was not too entirely removed from the Fantastic Four mythology. Like I was worried that Josh Trank would come in and like completely like wipe out all the things he would consider goofy or like silly, like you know, like what Christopher Nolan and Zack Snyder did for Superman. Like they took Superman and basically took some iconic images from that character because they thought it wouldn't work in for a modern audience. Like they took out the red, what's it called? The red underwear thing he wears. Everything was gray, and uh, basically they created their own Superman, but with a lot of taking a lot of liberties with the material. I was kind of worried that they do this for Fantastic Four, but you notice that there's a lot of like not maybe not a lot, but there are a few stuff in there uh that are like nice little references back to the Fantastic Four source material. Like they reference the Fantastic Car, the Negative Zone looks fine, I guess. Doctor Doom, like say what you will about Doctor Doom, but they did give him his signature like green hood. And what else did they do right? I mean, besides the little references to the source material, they also did some of the updates they did. I actually kind of liked. Like I I'm probably in the minority in this, but I like the suit design, and mainly because they explained that it's the suit is supposed to like help them control their powers, and even though it does look like kind of clunky, kind of more militarish, I actually didn't really mind that. It fit with the tone they're trying to do. Like it was they were trying to go for a very like traditional science meets military kind of movie. So I like that their suit looks like a mixture of like it looks like a space marine suit, but it also looks like an exploration suit. So I like that. Personally, I don't mind costume changes. Like even though I like the source material, sometimes you just gotta look at the source material and go, yeah, we can't put that on camera. Like, have you seen Wolverine's original costume or the Scarlet Witch's original costume? Like, they can't put that on screen. Expect casual people to like this. Like, that's something I don't really like about purist fans. I mean, they're not making these movies for purist comic book fans. They have to make it for the casual audience. So they can't take every little thing from the comic and just splat it on screen. Like what works in a comic book doesn't necessarily work for a movie. They have to change things. And what I'm saying is some of the changes they did I liked. Like I like the costume and honestly, I didn't mind Susan and Johnny being adopted siblings. I didn't mind that at all. Like, I was going into this thinking I would hate some of the revisions they did, but well, some of them did was okay. You know, I guess that's the little bit of praise I can give. And also, the cast. I mean, a lot of people praise the cast, and yeah, they did pretty good. I mean, a lot of the actors they cast in this movie I've seen previous roles, and I like them. Like I like Miles Teller. I think he's a good actor. Michael B. Jordan. I've been a fan of him since the Wire, and yeah, I'm referencing the Wire. I liked him in Fruitvale Station. I like Kate Mara in House of Cards. I'm not familiar with Jamie Bell. I know I've seen him somewhere, but I think he's an okay actor. The actor who played Franklin Storm. I know uh, he was also on The Wire. He played one of the politicians. I forgot his actor's name, but he was pretty good too. He made a pretty good Franklin Storm. And the guy that they got to play Doctor Doom, I remember seeing him in this one low budget movie where he played a soldier gunning down these people in a neighborhood. I thought he was a good actor, and honestly, before the movie started getting bad, I thought his take on Doctor Doom was okay. Like, I'll get more into this in a second, but what I'm trying to get is the reviews calling this the worst thing ever. I'm not gonna try to defend this movie too much, but I will say there are things I liked about Fantastic Four. All right, it's not there's not a lot of things, but it's not. I don't think it deserves like what I've seen like a 4.5 on IMDb or was it 15% or 10% on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't think it that low, but okay. Now let's get into the bad. Oh man. See, this is why I have to do a video review because I can't just write all my thoughts on this movie and expect it to be a small post. So, um, let's take this movie step by step because this is something I can't just jump from scene to scene. This is something that I actually have to explain. So, I would say spoilers, but honestly, if you've seen the trailers, you kind of know what. Actually, wow, that's kind of scary. The trailer kind of spoils the whole movie. So, yeah, I'm gonna spoil a bits of the movie. I mean, just bear with me, okay? And so the movie starts actually kind of like how I envisioned it to be. It starts with Reed Richards and Ben Grimm as kids, and it establishes them as friends. So that's actually like step one. That's done, and as kids, they show that Reed is this like he's this geek who's socially awkward. Like he he's like unattentive in class because he has too many ideas in his head, and he doesn't pick up on social cues. Like when he talks to people, he just kind of just says like he doesn't know how to socialize basically. And they also show Ben Grimm as this. Well, it initially makes him look like he's a bully, but then they kind of reverse it on its head, where it shows that Ben is legitimately interested in Reed's research. So it's kind of like they set him up to be this big dumb, no, not big, but this troubled kid who beats up on someone like Reed, but then it turns him into his best friend. So I actually like that kind of subverting the trope, I guess. Um, so it establishes that Reed is a kid genius, and establishes Ben as, I guess, the muscle in the friendship. Actually, before I get more into this movie, I do want to point out one scene that I saw in reviews, and yeah, it was pretty bad when I saw it. Like, you know the thing's catchphrase, right? It's clobbering time. Yeah, they took that phrase and the origin of that phrase is now Ben's older brother abuses Ben, and now that phrase he uses it. So it went from being just this like awesome catchphrase he shouts before he punches someone into man, that's dark. It turns it into something he remembers as a kid that traumatized him as a kid, and now he says it to just like fuel his rage. Like honestly, yeah, I'm gonna make another Marvel reference. It reminded me of the episode in Agents of Shield where Grant Ward gets power from the Asgardian staff, the Berserker staff, and the Berserker staff like forces him to relive these abused memories, and he gains power the more he uses his staff, but he also gets angrier because he's reliving these memories. That's kind of how I imagine the thing in this movie. Like he gets power because he's reminded of he reminds himself of these horrible things in the past. And I mean, I don't mind darker reinterpretations of characters, but I don't think this was the right path for this character because it's just supposed to be a catchphrase. It's something he says to just like when he punches someone, and it's supposed to be funny, and it's just supposed to sound. It's supposed to be corny, corny catchphrase that's fun. I imagine, I actually imagine like his catchphrase coming from something like maybe he hears it on TV from this like TV this show that he likes, and maybe reads like, "Why do you like the show?" And he's like, "This one character," and this character says it's clobbering time, and he can say some stuff like, "It's my very favorite character," like I know all his lines, whatever. But yeah, that's a stupid origin of that line, and it's probably not a very good one. But still, I mean, it's you're expecting like a light origin for this line, you know? You don't expect it to have dark connotations, okay? So that really took me out of the movie. Like that was like one that was like the first sign you knew that this was going to be something different. Like the reviews, this is kind of where you start to realize why this movie got the reviews it got. Anyways, so beyond the first scene, it cuts to them now they're teenagers, and Reed is at science fair where he meets Franklin Storm and Sue Storm, and they're interested in his project because they have so happen to be working on the same project, and they discover that the sand that comes through the teleporter is not from Earth. They realize that it doesn't match any material on Earth; it has to be a different planet. And sorry, I had to stop the review again because this is another thing I have to criticize. They changed the negative zone from the negative zone to Planet Zero, and I I'm not as angry about that, but still, why don't you call it the negative zone? It's so obviously the negative zone. That's like that's it's one of those territories that's synonymous with the Fantastic Four. You know, like kind of like how the X-Men have let's see, the X-Men have Genosha, the Avengers have uh, what's the location? I guess the Avengers have Wakanda because of Black Panther. I don't. And but you get my point. Like this is like a location that's synonymous with the team. You know, like Fantastic Four, they visit the negative zone. You know, so why don't you call it the negative zone when it's so obviously the negative zone? Um, it's a zone filled with elements and like weird like matter that doesn't exist on Earth. It, it's so obviously the negative zone, but I don't think I'm as angry about that. I mean, it's just a name change, whatever. I take it maybe it's a property thing. Like maybe Marvel Studios says you can't use you can't use the negative zone. It's kind of like how Marvel Studios can't say the word mutants because Fox owns the right to the word mutants. So that's why Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch in Avengers Age of Ultron were miracles, not mutants. But that's a whole different topic. Yeah, so Negative Zone is now Plan Zero. Ugh, anyways, so they recruit Reed to help them with their teleporter, and then they also recruit another genius named Victor Von Doom, and they establish him as this guy from Latveria. I guess they didn't really establish him as like their leader. He was more of just some dude from Latveria, and what I take it from the little that they give of Doctor Doom, because spoiler alert, he's not really in this movie. Um, Doctor Doom is this anti-political guy who has some past history with the scientists involved with the teleporter project, and they bring him in anyways because Franklin Storm needs him because Doctor Doom's a genius because he's freaking Doctor Doom. And okay, fine. This is I actually like this because you know what? Even though Doctor Doom is a bad guy, I always saw Doctor Doom as like he's the smartest bad guy in the Marvel universe. Like, even though he's bad, he's not stupid bad. He's not, he's not like Thanos who just wipes everyone out. It's like, he's rational. He's a very rational villain, and I like that. I like that Toby Kebbell. He, even though you can kind of, some bits kind of seem weird in his performance. I actually like his interpretation. Sorry, his interpretation of Doom as he's a scientist who is willing to work on the project, but he always has like this cautious eye. Like he lets people know he doesn't trust them. Like he's willing to work with them, but he always keeps an eye on them. So I actually like that. I think that's that's like a start for a good origin of Doctor Doom, Instead of just making him outright evil like in the Tim Story movies, like there was actual thought put into the Doctor Doom character. At least in the first act of the movie. We'll get more into this. So, uh, so they recruit Victor Von Doom, and then Johnny Storm is introduced, and admittedly, it's not as good as Chris Evans's intro as Johnny Storm. Like, obviously, since Johnny Storm's like the adrenaline, like he's the he's the wild one of the group. They introduce him in a pretty wild way. Like he's in a car chase and he gets injured, and in order to pay off the car, he is forcibly recruited into the teleporter program. And okay, fine, fine. And then we get to probably the best part of the movie, them just talking to each other. And the reason why I say this is the best part of the movie is because you can tell there's bits going into there was actual thought being put into making this team work. Like, um, well, I mean, a negative to this is Ben's not there, so you don't really get to see Ben interacting with the rest of the team. But what I liked is that they actually tried to show Reed, Ben, I mean not Ben, Reed, Johnny, Sue, and even Victor. Like you get to see them grow as friends. Like you get to see them, you get to see them bond, which is what I kind of mentioned at the beginning of the video. Like I, like you, the point of the Fantastic Four is that they're a superhero family. They they act like a family because that's what they are. So a lot of this movie had to go into the relationship, and that's actually a big reason why it fails. I'll get into that in the second act. Um, but but that's what makes that scene actually kind of infuriating because you you see that there was good ideas into this movie. It's like the first third of the movie, you could tell that they were being serious with this Fantastic Four movie. Like we're gonna try our best. The Tim Story movie sucks, so we're gonna try our best to make something great. And you see that in how they were developing Reed, how they were developing Sue, Johnny, Victor, and their friendship, and how they built the teleporter. Like you can tell that there was actually thought in the first third of the movie. And then this is where it starts falling apart, sadly. Yeah, it's pretty early in the movie where it starts falling apart. But anyways, the part where it starts falling apart is right after they test the teleporter, and they tell the teleporter works. Like they get a live subject through, and then you get a first look at the negative zone. And I really like the negative zone. I thought it was pretty cool looking. Like they went for a more they went for the approach that this planet is just like pure like energy, pure resources, and they show that like every step you take is there's like it's like you're walking on resources, you're walking on energy, and I like that. I kind of picture the negative zone a little bit more blue, but I mean whatever, it looks fine. Um, and then uh, and then this is where it started getting bad. Tim Blake Nelson's character, who I thought he was playing like Harvey Elder, the Mole Man, but anyways, he he is this like government drone who he wants to recruit people in the military, and this typical character like I want to use this teleporter to make better soldiers and in America's best interest, blah, blah, blah whatever. And obviously Victor Von Doom is against this. Like I I don't trust the government, and this should be ours because we built it. And okay, I actually like that. I liked how he stood up for the project, and I liked how Reed, Johnny, and Sue and Franklin were all kind of behind his back. You know, it shows that Victor Von Doom was part of their clique, and I thought, that at first I was building up to the eventual betrayal, like, how can you do this, Doctor Doom? You were our friend, and now you're more mortal enemy, kind of thing. It's typical, but I mean, it's fine. It's been done in the past. Um, the part where it starts falling apart is when they go to the negative zone. I'm not calling it Planet Zero. So Doctor Doom, he suggests, okay, guys, we're losing our project, so you know what, might as well get drunk. Eh, yeah, that's Doctor Doom suggesting the team get drunk. Yeah, it sounds kind of weird, but the whole point of that scene is to lead into Reed Richards going, you know what? We should go into the negative zone because we were the ones who built the teleporter, so we should be the first ones there. And yeah, that. So you start thinking, okay, they don't go to the negative zone technically on their own free will. They go because in a drunken state, they decide it's a good idea. Because, like, sober Reed would probably not do this. So, yeah, that's kind of that's a big strike, actually. And then, for some reason, Reed Richards calls Ben. It's like, Ben, we've been working on this together. You should come with us to the negative zone because you're my best friend and blah, blah, blah. And then, yeah, so Ben comes in, but then you're wondering, wait a minute, why is Ben here? Like, Ben at this point is just some guy living in some rundown neighborhood, and he is Reed's best friend, but you'd think that Reed would call Sue, because Sue was one of the main builders of one of the main contributors to the project. And while Ben is his best friend, Ben didn't do shit on this project. Like you're bringing the guy who has no knowledge of the negative zone. He's never seen the negative zone, and you're bringing him on the project when you could have brought Sue Storm over, who has seen the negative zone before, knows how the machine works, and yeah, that's that's another big strike. And obviously, the main reason why Sue Storm can't go is because they need someone to do the machine thing on the other side and bring them back. And then that's another thing. Like, why wasn't there 5 pods so all 5 of them could go? Like, you can make the argument that they needed someone on the other side to bring them back when, obviously this mission goes bad. But that there's an easy solution to this. Like Reed Richards finds a way to get the teleporter back on his own, but he's a little too late because everyone has already had too much exposure to the radiation. You didn't really need someone on the other side to do this. Like, it's actually more suspenseful when they realize they don't have any backup help, so they have to rely on Reed Richards to do the thing inside his pod to get them all back. And it actually makes it more his fault, and it adds more to his guilt that he got everyone infected because he's the sole person who got them back. Having someone on the other side bring them back kind of decreases the tension because now you know that they can make it back. I mean, obviously you knew that they were going to get back somehow, but I'm just thinking in terms of like how to make the scene more suspenseful. Like, there's almost like no reason why Sue Storm couldn't have gone. And yeah, that it's really bothering because like this movie's called Fantastic Four, but one member of the team is not present for the one big event that gives them their powers. And okay, yeah, Sue Storm gets her powers, like, but it's super anticlimactic. Like, they get back, and Sue Storm gets hit with, I guess, the energy from the negative zone that gets teleported back. And then again, you're thinking, how come no one got hit with energy in the times they've done this before? Like, this one time they teleported back to Earth, she gets hit with this random bolt of energy. Ah, what? Uh, oh God, so much more movie to go. Yeah, this movie is pretty bad. I forgot to give it a letter grade, but I think I'll have to give it a letter grade like D or D minus. Like, it's not as bad as Tomorrowland. Okay, I still say Tomorrowland is the worst movie of the year. But yeah, this was ugh. I don't think I don't think it's like eye-clawing bad, but it's definitely bad in the realm that you knew there was good ideas, but you can so obviously tell that changes had to be made uh, near the middle or end of the production. And by the time they made the changes, they realized they fucked up so hard that there was like nothing they could do at this point. Like I've heard that they had to do reshoots, and it shows like this movie just reeks of studio mismanagement, directorial mismanagement, and you could tell that it was affecting the cast because the cast felt so uninterested in this. And actually, yeah, let me bring that up now before I go further into the movie. The cast feels dead the whole time. Like, they're saying lines that should have some dramatic depth to it. Like there's scenes where Franklin Storm's talking to Sue Storm, and it's like your family, and you have to stick together and all that. And these lines should hit. Like these are the lines that convinces the team, that they have to come together and become the Fantastic Four. But they don't land. It kind of feels like everyone's going through the motions. Like maybe in the beginning you could tell that there was enthusiasm, but near the middle and the end, the enthusiasm drops. Like they're saying these lines that are supposed to be either funny or dramatic or just something. They're supposed to evoke something out of you, but they just fall dead. Like Reed Richards gives this epic speech at the end where they have to stand up against Doctor Doom, and it just falls flat. Like his delivery is flat. His facial expressions are just flat, and the team kind of responds, "Yeah." I mean that it should be the moment where the team is united as one. They're pumped. They're ready to take on Doctor Doom. Instead, it just feels more like, that was a good speech, Reed. I guess we're gonna go back to doing the thing that we did before. Yeah, it's you could just feel the apathy in this movie, and man, I'm gonna go. I was gonna go on a tangent there. I have to get through this movie. Let's backtrack before we get into the third act. Second act. This is the part of the movie that infuriated me the most. I don't know if people said this the third act did, but the second act did for me personally because it started to drag hard. Like like the movie the movie was going at a fine pace at first, with building the machine and going to the negative zone, but when the act where they're recruited by the government and they're trying to find Reed Richards, it just the movie just drops. Like it becomes so super plotting and so slow that you wonder why was this only 100 minutes? Like because it doesn't really build up to the climax, this second act. Okay, so let me put things in context. They get back from the negative zone, and obviously they're all affected by whatever the hell is on the planet. Like Reed discovers he's super stretchy, and Ben discovers he's turned into the Thing, the Human Torch. I mean, Johnny can burst into flames, and Susan can make force fields and turn herself invisible. Um, Actually, yeah. Before I continue, that was actually something I liked. I liked how they did their each individual transformations. Like, um, they showed that Doctor Doom he got his metal face because the he got hit with the energy plasma, whatever, and the plasma kind of melted the suit into his skin. So that's where he gets this like metallic look. It looks bad. Don't make it get me wrong. Like the Doctor Doom looks terrible in this movie, but I like the explanation that they gave, like why he looks metallic. Unlike the Tim Story movies, where I guess he just started growing metal skin. That was kind of eh. And I don't know how they explain Reed getting stretchy. I don't remember that. And I don't know how Susan getting hit with like lightning turns her invisible, lets her make force fields, whatever. But I like how they explained that Johnny Storm's containment pod was caught on fire, and Ben's pod, like as they were going back in time, it opens and he gets starts getting hit with rocks. So you can kind of make the connection that when they got teleported back into onto Earth, the rocks kind of fused into him. So I like that explanation. Anyways, moving on. It starts to drag. So they discover the powers, and then Reed Richards escapes the military, and then there's a cut 1 year later, and now Reed is still on the run. Like he's trying to find a way to, I guess, cure them, and the Thing, Human Torch, and Invisible Woman, they have all been recruited into the government, and now uh, they're, I guess, working for them because they're trying to find a cure. And this is where I couldn't figure out what the main conflict was, because I at first I assumed it was gonna be Doctor Doom, like like Doctor Doom is there and he's growing insane because he learns that he has so much power and he could use it to take over the world, whatever. But Doctor Doom disappears after this. Like he's left on the negative zone and you don't see him until the third act. But so at first I thought, okay, I guess they're saving Doctor Doom for the sequel, whatever. But then when I came to terms with that, then I began to ask, what is the main conflict here? Is it the Fantastic Four trying to come to terms with their powers? Is it them going against the government because the government wants to use them as soldiers? Is it the team against themselves because Reed abandoned them? Like the movie just becomes this plotting mess of like ideas. Like there's scenes where Tim Blake Nelson says, hey, Ben, Reed abandoned you. Don't you want revenge?" And Ben is like, "Yeah, I want revenge because he was my best friend." Subplot doesn't go anywhere. Like they're enemies for a bit, and then at the end, they're back to being friends. Okay, so pointless. And then I guess there was a subplot where Susan Storm was like, "I want to become normal again. Like I don't want to be this freak, this mutant." Eh, mutant. Um, she had that subplot where you think she'd had the subplot where I hate being invisible. I want to be normal, and then she learns to appreciate being invisible. Kind of like what they did with Jessica Alba in the original movies. But that suddenly gets dropped because they bring it up once, and then Franklin Storm talks to her once, and then she's done. It's like, okay, I like being invisible now. And then there was a subplot where Johnny Storm was talking about how this is like the one thing he like could do, like he's an adult now. I want to be the Human Torch. Like it's essentially Chris Evans's arc in the original Fantastic Four movies, where he's the one member of the team who enjoys being a superhero. Or he wasn't really a superhero in that movie. He was more like a guy with superpowers. But I mean, regardless, he liked being the center of attention. He liked having superpowers. They kind of gave him that arc in this movie, but then you're asking yourself, where did this arc come from? Like, they each have their own individual subplots. None of them go anywhere. And then, even when this is all happening, you're thinking in the back of your head, why should we care about them individually? And I know what you're thinking. It's like, oh, these are characters and you're supposed to care about them individually because each of them are a different person. Okay, that fine, fair point. But they focus on it so much that they forget that this is a team movie. Like, we're supposed to care more about them as a team more than as individual people. Maybe you could save that stuff for the sequel where we get more into them, but this movie should have been focused on them on their team dynamics, but most of the time they're separated from each other. Like the Thing is always in a jail cell, Susan Storm's always training by herself, the Human Torch disappears for like a good chunk of the movie, and Reed is on the run by himself. Like, why are they separate? They should be a team. We should see them as friends and then becoming like um, lifelong teammates, you know? But you don't see that, and that's where the movie actually falls apart the hardest because the at the core basis of this movie should have been about family, it should have been about friendship, and it should have been about uh, these people coming together as a team, realizing that they can't save the world on their own or beat Doctor Doom on their own, but they can do it together. But you never see that because the movie's trying to make you care about everyone's each individual arc that it forgets about their team dynamics because you never see them as a team until the end of the movie. And honestly, even it sounds like I'm not going through the second act. Like I'm kind of just like picking parts I hated, but that's because nothing really happens in the second act. Okay, Reed Richards escapes, and it cuts to 1 year later. The Thing, Invisible Woman, and Johnny Storm, they're working for the government. Then they track down Reed Richards. They get Reed Richards to help them with their teleporter again because they need more information about the negative zone to turn them back into humans. And then it gets into the third act. That's literally it. Most of the scenes are just scenes of pointless development, and then another pointless scene, and then another pointless scene, because it's all building up to the inevitable Doctor Doom reappearance. And that's another complaint I have about this movie. Let's get into the third act. This is where I eyeballed the hardest. Like, um, they messed up Doctor Doom mainly because this movie wasn't really about Doctor Doom. You know? Yeah. Okay. Fine. Yes. Doctor Doom. This shouldn't have been about Doctor Doom because it's a Fantastic Four movie. But still, if there should have been any character who had a subplot focus on their individual development, it should have been about Doctor Doom. Let me put it in these terms. The arc of Doctor Doom in the original Tim Story movies made more sense and was a better interpretation of the character than the one we got in this movie. I'm dead fucking serious. All right, like this is literally all you see of Doctor Doom in the movie. You see him in the beginning of the movie helping the team. You see kind of hints that he's going to be a bad guy because he loves power. He is infatuated with Susan Storm. He has jealousy against Reed Richards because he thinks he's smarter than him. He's smarter than everyone. And you also see elements of the character where you can see that he could become a supervillain. Like he says things like, "The Earth is dying. We should just let it die because we destroy it." Like that's something a supervillain would say. So that was fine, but then he disappears for the most part because he gets left in the negative zone. Comes back in the third arc because once they rebuild the machine, they go back into the negative zone and find Doctor Doom. They bring him back, and then for some reason he starts killing everyone, and now is like, I must destroy the Earth because I must protect the negative zone. And okay, fine, but the movie never earns this climax because it was not building up to a climax against the fight with Doctor Doom. Comes out of nowhere. And That's mainly because they sidelined the villain for a good chunk of the, actually the whole middle of the movie. He just reappears, goes, "I'm a bad guy," and then the team has to work together, I guess, because situation demands it. I don't know. It was such a shitty like build up because, well, I mean there was no build up at all. It was such a shitty climax. Like where was this? Where did this arc come from? You know, Why didn't they just? They should have just done this. They should have never separated the team. Always kept them in the same room or same area, whatever. Had them become a team. You know, learn how to work together, learn how to fight together, and just basically become the Fantastic Four. And the subplot be Doctor Doom realizes that he has so much power, he could use it to control the world. And then these plots come together at the climax when their goals conflict with each other, and then they have to start fighting. I hate to say this, but the Tim Story movie did it better. Like he got it was okay. Let me be clear. 2005 Fantastic Four sucked. All right, it was bad. It's still bad now, but even then he understood the guy understood the basics of like conflict building. Okay, like it was a bad conflict, but at least it was a conflict. Like at least that Fantastic Four felt like a team, and at least Doctor Doom felt like an actual bad guy. This Doctor Doom, the new Doctor Doom, it just feels like they found some dude in a portal, and then now he has a hatred of humanity and wants to destroy Earth for some reason. I don't know. Like he says something about how the Earth must be destroyed to protect the negative zone, but it's like no buildup, nothing. And I'm sorry if I'm harping on this point, but this is why the third act is hated so much. Like it feels tacked on. You can feel you. I feel like this is actually where most of the reshoots came from because I think Josh Trank had a different climax. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I knew where Josh Trank was going. Like the movie felt like it was building up to a confrontation with the military. Like I don't think Doctor Doom was supposed to be the main villain at all. Like I feel like Doctor Doom would have showed up at maybe at the end where maybe the Fantastic Four see they build another teleporter and then they go through it and then it's like Sue Storm says, I found someone. I found someone and Reed Richards is on the other side. It's like what did you find? What did you find? And you're in the audience. You're like, who could it be? Who could it be? Even though in the back of your head, you know it's Doctor Doom. And then they bring the teleporter comes back, and then Sue Storm goes, "You won't believe who I found." And then they remove the hood. It's like an unconscious Doctor Doom. And then it cuts there, with the words Fantastic Four. And obviously building up to the sequel where Doctor Doom is the main bad guy. Because I think the movie was what Josh Trank was originally trying to build up to. I think he was building up to a confrontation with the military. And there is credibility to that theory because Tim Blake Nelson was playing Harvey Elder. Well, I think he was. That was what it said in like the last time I checked the wiki page. Like he was playing the Mole Man, okay? Like I thought that's a good introductory villain. Like it's not their arch nemesis. It's just some dude to introduce the team, like someone that they they could unite against to fight. Like maybe it's revealed the Mole Man was controlling the military and now wants to control the Fantastic Four, and then Fantastic Four obviously goes, you know what? We should fight against this mole guy and his sect of the military. And then they take him out and then the actual U.S. government goes, we always had our suspicions about that mole guy, about Miss Dr. Elder. He was like that terrorist called the mole Man, whatever. And America thanks you, Fantastic Four, whatever, all that stuff. And you, I think that was what he was originally going for. I don't think Doctor Doom was supposed to be the main villain. And also another reason why maybe this theory could be true, it's because most of the reshoots you could tell was into this final scene with Doctor Doom. Like, for one, it feels tacked on, like comes out of nowhere, like I said. And also the writing becomes incredibly different. Like suddenly they're saying one-liners, and I don't mind one-liners, but it just doesn't. It didn't really fit with the dialogue in the beginning of the movie because um, what I mean by one-liner, okay, maybe that's wrong. Um, what I mean by one-liners, I mean more about like the kind of dialogue you'd see in a superhero fight movie, where it's like typically you'd see maybe let's say Iron Man is fighting uh some guy, some supervillain, okay? And maybe there's a moment in the movie where Iron Man gets thrown into this like tank, and then the villain says, huh, "You had enough, Iron Man," and then Iron Man says some witty one-liner, you know? It's like stuff that you see in a final battle, okay? But in this movie, it doesn't feel like they were building up to a final super battle, a superhero battle. Like if it felt like an honest to God, like it felt like a they were trying to build up to an actual confrontation with the military, like an actual morality battle, like something that's not really of funny or something that's not really grand like a superhero fight. It felt more like they were trying to build up to a desperation battle, like something that tore the team apart, but they knew they had to stick together because they were up against these huge odds. Okay, I think what's a good example? I think they were trying to go for like the Captain America Winter Soldier kind of climax, where even though they were kind of spouting off these one-liners, it was the whole climax was building up to Cap and his small band of heroes going up against this large, unsurmountable foe with who has like access to all these soldiers, and they're just like they're shooting everywhere, and like they're heavily outnumbered. It feels like Fantastic Four was trying to build up to that climax because it established the military was the bad guys, were the bad guys. But then I guess this is where the studio came in and said, no, we don't really trust that. We need a better villain. You should use Doctor Doom. And also another reason why it's obvious that the reshoots were for the build up for this the third act. There's a lot of like glaring errors in the final battle that you notice. Like Kate Mara's hair is obviously different in the final battle. That kind of actually made me kind of laugh. Like Kate Mara was sporting this short hair at the start of the movie, and near the end of the movie, it's long and somehow kind of blonder, um, or lighter, I guess. And at first, maybe you could say, okay, maybe it was the time jump. But even then, after the time jump, her hair still looked different from like the after the time jump and the final battle. It still looked different. Like, man. Also, you can tell that the final scene was rushed because even though they're fighting in this grand landscape, you can still kind of tell that they're fighting in a soundstage. The whole fight scene just feels small. Like they're fighting in a tight area because they never show the characters fighting in like a larger field. Like it's always like compact. Uh, and okay, maybe for characters like Reed Richards or Susan Storm who can't like leap large distances, maybe that's fine. But you expect someone like Human Torch and the Thing, to maybe come in from large distances, or maybe Johnny Storm's coming down from the sky and raining fire. Like it's it just feels The whole fight feels claustrophobic. Oh man, how long have I run about this fight scene? It's terrible. Like man, okay, let me just speed this up. Okay, so they go into the negative zone, they find Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom suddenly wants to destroy the world, and they have a huge fight, and Doctor Doom is destroyed. So, there goes another supervillain that could have been really great. Uh, anyways, so They stopped Doctor Doom, and the whole battle was inconsequential. I mean, it's like you never really feel like the world is in danger, mainly because this is an introduction to the Fantastic Four. They can't fail in the first movie, so having this plot where Doctor Doom destroys the world, it really falls flat. Like he's gonna lose. Um, so the Fantastic Four, I guess, are a team now, and then the government gives him a space to work, and then Reed Richards comes up with the name Fantastic Four. Movie ends. No post credits, no Stanley cameo. Um, yeah, this movie's not as bad as I guess, as like I said, it's not as bad as what the reviews are saying, but as a Marvel fan, as a fan of the Fantastic Four, yeah, this was disappointing. Like, there's so many things they could have done better in this movie. Like, so many points in this movie where you can look at and say, how did they make a mistake that big and so easily avoidable? Like, um, uh, 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 maybe this movie could have worked the way it was. Maybe. Like maybe if this movie was longer, because 100 minutes is really short for this kind of movie. Maybe if they used the extra time to show the team more as a team. Maybe they add in scenes where Doctor Doom is learning how to control the negative zone, and so by the time they come back to the negative zone, you've already spent a lot of time with Doctor Doom learning how to control the powers. And then maybe they show a scene where Doctor Doom's not actually dead. It's revealed he's lying on the ground somewhere. And actually, you know what? Better yet, don't kill Doctor Doom. Just arrest him or send him back to Latveria. Like that's what they did in the original Fantastic Four movies. Well, I can't believe I'm using the Tim Story movies as like a positive point. But anyways, uh, other points in this movie that could have been better. Um, honestly, just the stuff in this movie they could improve is basically just elements of the Fantastic Four universe. Like, just have better family dynamics, a better Doctor Doom, uh, just better pretty much everything Fantastic Four related. Because this movie shouldn't have been as bad as it was. Like, I guess this goes back to the question I posed at the beginning of the video. Like, what uh who is to blame for this movie? Was it the studio? Was it Josh Trank? Was it the cast apathy? I think it's just a mixture of everything. Like, um, sorry, I keep burping. Like, this movie just had a lot of things going against it. Maybe on paper, it could have been better than the Tim Story movies. Like, because now they have a blueprint of what not to do in a Fantastic Four movie, but there's also a lot of things going against it. I mean, one, Fox Studios doesn't give a fuck about comic books, and yeah, you might be saying, oh, but they made the X-Men movies, so you know what, they kind of care. But from my own perspective, you can have your own perspective, but from my own perspective, I personally don't think Fox Studios cares about comic books. I mean, it shows like they made a crappy Daredevil movie, crappy Elektra movie, and actually a lot of the X-Men movies are crap. Like the Wolverine movies, both of them, um, X-Men 3, and even the good ones, they also have their own problems. Like X-Men 1, and 1 and 2 only focus on Wolverine. They ruined Lady Deathstrike. Uh, they Americanized Quicksilver. Apocalypse doesn't look good. What else did this? Oh my God, there's so much wrong they did. I shouldn't get into X-Men, but okay. The point I'm trying to make is, sorry, Fox Studio. I don't think Fox Studios really cares about this movie, and there's a theory online where people are saying they only made this movie, they only made the Fantastic Four movie just to spite Marvel Studios, just to keep the rights within their studio because they know if a few more years had gone by, the rights would have reverted back to Marvel Studios. So they just did this because they wanted to do something with the rights, so they could extend having it in Fox Studios. And if that theory is true, if they made this just to keep the rights, it shows they really, really don't care about comic books. Like, they don't care if they make a good comic book movie. They don't care if it tanks or if it profits. Well, I mean, they obviously they do care if it profits, but they don't really care about making a good comic book movie. You know, they don't really care about Fantastic Four, like, because if they really did care about the Fantastic Four, then you expect them to not make these really, really, really obvious mistakes. Or these really, really glaring mistakes. Maybe not obvious, but glaring mistakes. Um, that's my own personal opinion about Fox Studios. I don't like them very much, obviously. Uh, I'm worried about Deadpool. Like, yeah, it's getting a hard R, but I'm just worried because their track record with comic book movies is not very good. Um, Other points that could be why this movie failed. Josh Trank, I blame. And I know people are saying the guy made Chronicle. Come on, he made Chronicle. And to me, that's like, okay, he made one movie. Okay. I haven't seen Chronicle, but I heard it's good. I'm not knocking him for that. But that's not enough. That's not enough to show that the guy can make consistent good work. You know, like, just because you make a good movie doesn't mean your next movie is going to be great. What Fox should have done was they should have gotten a guy who can play it safe. You know, a guy who's maybe has like 2 to 4 good movies under his belt, like who someone who they can trust with their multi-million-dollar franchise. Okay. Um, Josh Trank, I feel like as a choice was a little too risky. You know, I mean, he made a movie about the dangers of superpowers, and you took that guy and asked him to direct a movie where these people use their powers for good, and like, it's generally a lighthearted franchise that's about people who, yeah, at first they're scared about their powers, but it's not like Chronicle where they use it for where uh, I really don't know that much about Chronicle, but from what I understand, it's about the dangers of superpowers. You could kind of take that approach with Fantastic Four, but at the end, it's about people using their powers for good and the good side of having superpowers. You took a guy who made a movie about the bad side of superpowers, told him to make a movie about the good side of superpowers. Are you getting what I'm saying? Like, too green for Fantastic Four, and also I don't think he had the right mindset for a Fantastic Four movie. Um, he wanted to turn it dark and gritty, and he wanted it more about the dark side of these powers, because there's a scene in this movie where it's all about body horror. It's like, um, Johnny Storm catches fire, he's scared. um, Reed Richards sees his legs, it's stretchy, and he's shocked. And yeah, I mean, okay, fine, that's fine and all, but I I don't think it was the right approach for this movie. Like, it's too cynical, too just it's too anti superpowers, And okay, maybe that could work for some heroes. Like, I could see Josh Trank making an X-Men movie. Okay, like, that series is about people questioning their powers. Some mutants want to keep their powers, some mutants don't want to keep their powers. Actually, yeah. Why didn't Josh Trank direct an X-Men movie? Why give him Fantastic Four? Someone, the kind of director I picture directing a good Fantastic Four movie would be someone who knows how to do, like, family dynamics well. Someone who gets the idea of people coming together and becoming good friends. Someone who knows how to do good character relationships. Someone like Brad Bird. Actually, it's kind of actually. now I think about it, Brad Bird already made a good superhero movie about a family. It's called The Incredibles. Why didn't you just get Brad Bird? Like the guy proves he could make a good Fantastic Four movie. Incredibles is pretty much the Fantastic Four. Obviously, has different character dynamics and character relationships, but still, why didn't you just get Brad Bird to do this? Okay, yeah, he made Tomorrowland this year, but still, why you should have just signed that guy, or maybe yeah, instead of yeah, besides Brad Bird, I mean, just generally get someone. They should have gotten someone who could have just played it safer. You know, like maybe uh the guy who directed Ant-Man. I freaking loved Ant-Man. Ant-Man was a great movie. Okay, and that movie was more of a Fantastic Four movie than the actual Fantastic Four movie, because even though it was about Ant-Man, you get to see Scott's relationship with Hank and Hope, you know, and see it grow. Peyton Reed could have done a great, the guy who directed Ant-Man. Peyton Reed could have done a good Fantastic Four movie. What else could I? What else could we blame? Studio. Yeah, I already talked about the studio. Josh Trank. Yes, I am blaming Josh Trank. Screenwriter too. Like, yeah, that guy wrote X-Men: The Last Stand, so I don't know enough about that guy, but I mean that's pretty much enough. Just anyone associated with X-Men: The Last Stand. Uh, I don't blame the cast. I think the cast, this was not a very good time for them. Like, um, you just kind of get a sense that they were just not into this movie because, you know, actors have to put a lot of trust in their directors. And hearing stories about what Josh Trank was like behind the scenes, or how the studios was just like messing with this movie, you can see in their performance that they were just not into this movie. Like, honestly, when I heard the cast, I thought they were all good picks. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I thought they were all pretty good picks for the characters they were doing. Like Michael B. Jordan could do funny. Like he could be a good Johnny Storm. Kate Mara is a good actress. Miles Teller is a good actor. I don't know about Jamie Bell, but I'm pretty sure he's a good actor because a lot of people seem to like him. Toby Kebbell is a good actor. Everyone else in this movie is a good actor. But actors have to rely on their directors and bad direction leads to, well, bad acting because the actors don't know what they're doing. So you just see a lot of this and a lot of that in the movie. Just like lots of bad direction, lots of I guess studio decisions, whatever. Just this movie, I guess, to summarize, it just feels like a mess. If you there's a It just feels like wasted potential, a lot of wasted. It just feels wasteful because honestly, I don't know why Fox dropped the ball this hard on this movie because a good Fantastic Four movie has a lot of good upsides for the studio. One, new franchise that they could make millions of dollars of and make like maybe like 7 sequels. Two, you're signing on relatively young actors who you could get to sign like ironclad contracts. Like you can have them do like 4 to 5 picture deals. And I don't think it's as hard to convince younger actors to do these deals as opposed to older actors, because older actors, they're approaching their prime, maybe they want to retire more, but you had these hot young actors, who are pretty talented and you waste them, And also, another waste of potential was the X-Men crossover. It's like, how much money could come out of an X-Men Fantastic Four crossover? People would line up to see that, okay? It was one of the things I was genuinely excited for in this Fantastic Four movie, seeing these two team up. And yeah, I may be like a Marvel fanboy who wants to see all the franchises come together. I want to see all of these rights come back to Marvel Studios. I want to see, a movie with the Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, Avengers, and X-Men. Sorry, brain fart. I want to see a movie with all of them together. But if I have to stick with the X-Men Fantastic Four movie, fine, fine, fine. It's fine. but they dropped the ball so hard on this. Like, I'm trying to summarize, but I keep making new points. It's just wasteful. That's all this movie is. It's just lots and lots of wasted potential. Just too many, too many, I guess, experimental ideas from Josh Trank. Too much studio interference from Fox. You could tell in the actors. You can tell in the special effects. Special effects don't look very good. You can tell in the laziness of the reshoots, and it's just an all-around mess. And I don't think the sequel is gonna happen anymore at this point, but you know what? If they do make the sequel, hopefully they learn from their lesson. Fire Josh Trank, don't bring him back for Fantastic Four. Bring in Brad Bird. Have him salvage this mess or something. Or better yet, just sell the rights back to Marvel Studios. Have them turn it into a Netflix show and score 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, whatever. Like, I just, Fox, what are you doing with with the Fantastic Four? Okay, X-Men movie, I mean, fine. X-Men movies, I have a love-hate relationship, but you guys just don't know what you're doing with Fantastic Four. Like, it's just all around mess. That's all I have to say about the Fantastic Four. I don't think it's as bad as how the critics are saying. I found some good out of it. Some jokes landed, fine, whatever. Some some decisions, some updates they made, I liked, whatever. But it's definitely not enough to say it's a good movie. One of, it's not the worst movie for me, but it's definitely the biggest disappointment of this year. Uh, I feel sad now. Anyways, this review has gone on for over an hour. Anyways, uh, let me know in the comments what you thought about this movie. Obviously, I didn't like it, but I'd like to hear maybe a positive spin on this movie. Um, yeah, that's Fantastic Four. It wasn't very good. Okay, bye.